They followed us home.
Featuring a harrowing performance from Will Smith, I Am Legend is an emotional journey following military virologist Robert Neville and his dog Sam as they look for a cure in a post-apocalyptic world that's been ravaged by the Krippin Virus. Named after its creator, Dr. Alice Krippin, the mutated strain of measles was initially hailed as a miracle cure for cancer. Clinical trials show that it was 100% effective. However, its side effects of turning people into monsters weren't discovered until mass distribution of KV had taken place. By then, it was too late. Despite the military's best efforts to contain KV, it went airborne and mutated into a lethal new strain of measles with a 90% kill rate, killing 5.4 billion people. Of the 600 million people who didn't initially die from the virus, only 12 million were naturally immune to KV. The other 588 million devolved into Darkseekers. If we, like Neville, were one of the few people who were immune to the Krippin virus, would we be able to survive this nightmarish ordeal? Again, statistically speaking, most of us would probably go within the first few weeks. But maybe if we follow the major events in the film, the obstacles our main characters encounter, and the decisions they make along the way, we can improve our odds and figure out how to survive I Am Legend. As always, the first step is to know your enemy. In this case, it's the Darkseekers, humans who were infected by the Krippin virus but didn't die. The Darkseekers seem wild and unorganized, but beneath the savagery is intelligence, emotion, and wouldn't you know it, a keen instinct to survive. However, the virus has also caused their breathing to sound quite ragged, so you can use that to your advantage and keep an ear out for signs of a hyperventilating Darkseeker lurking in the shadows. These guys are smart enough to study your weaknesses and build traps that will catch you. On top of that, they're super fast and have increased strength, so going up against a horde is a bad idea. If you want to survive, you need to be invisible. The most important thing to consider is their weakness to UV light. Sunlight or an ultraviolet lamp can be fatal to a Darkseeker almost immediately. As a result, they've developed a nocturnal life cycle and never come out in the daylight. This means you'll want to get all your scavenging and fortifying done in the daytime, and you need to make sure that you're careful when lurking around in dark crevices or shadowy storerooms. Daylight is your ally, so use the daytime to hit up a military surplus store and grab some night vision goggles, weapons, explosives, and ammo. You're also going to want to get your hands on some ultraviolet lights. Now, these aren't exactly easy things to find. Neville has access to plenty of scientific equipment since he's a virologist, but if you're not a scientist, you'll have to get thrifty. And by getting thrifty, I mean you need to steal some UV lights from a local laboratory or college campus. Seriously, these are going to be your #1 defense against the Darkseekers at night. Light them up with some of these bad boys and they'll shrivel up on the spot. I'd advise against leaving your home once it's dark, but if you do need to head out at night or venture into a dimly lit room, use the night vision goggles and make sure that you have plenty of batteries on hand too. You don't want to lose your sight while cornered. If you happen to be a virologist like Neville, tell your colleagues not to genetically re-engineer the measles virus. If you have any sort of clout in the scientific community, start petitioning to nip that study in the bud right away. It'll be a long shot. I mean, people probably won't believe you if you told them that the world might soon be overrun with vampires, but hey, it's worth a try. At the very least, get them to hold off and do a few more years of clinical trials. Try as you might, the chances that they'll listen to you are unlikely, so keep hoarding supplies for the impending apocalypse. Some other key things to stock up on are food, gasoline, and water. If you can get a stockpile started early on, you won't have to worry about going out and putting yourself in danger when the world has come to an end. While the internet still exists, you might want to binge something like Doomsday Preppers on Netflix so you can get some good ideas on building bunkers, fortifying your living space, hoarding food, and ultimately surviving the apocalypse. If you've already set up a shelter, your chances of getting through this are going to be significantly improved. But even if you stumble into this outbreak unprepared, you can still use the precious hours of safety that you have during the day to put something together over time. Even if you have a nice stockpile of non-perishables, you're probably going to need to go out and hunt eventually. For this, you're going to want to have a few hunting rifles on hand, as well as some traps and snares so that you can catch deer with relatively minimal effort. But be careful while you're hunting. With all the people gone, animals at the nearby zoo will have likely broken out by now. So make sure you respect the new ecosystem that has developed around you. Man is no longer on top of the food chain. While you're out and about, make sure you know exactly how much time you have until sundown, as once it gets dark, the streets belong to the Darkseekers. Neville always keeps a watch handy with a timer set so that he knows exactly when the Darkseekers will be coming out. Make sure that you do the same, and don't take any unnecessary chances. Once the alarm goes off, it's time to head home. No exceptions. On that note, make sure that you have a solid way of getting around. Neville cruises in a Ford Mustang Shelby GT500 like a boss. Having a fast sports car in hand is definitely helpful when you need to speed back home before sunset, so go ahead and snag yourself a flashy car. It'll be practical and fun. Having said that, you might want something a little more fuel efficient than a Mustang. Next up, it's important to fortify your base and set up booby traps. Disguise your scent by splashing vinegar around the area, rig some chicken wire and snares outside, and install some security cameras to keep an eye on your property. For more booby trap ideas, watch the Home Alone and Saw series, which I'm pretty sure are both set in the same universe. A Mustang is great when you need to move quickly, but in the event that you need to leave your shelter altogether, you need a large, heavily fortified vehicle with enough food, water, weapons, and supplies to last a few months, or at least until you can fortify a new base. If you do decide to fortify your home, make sure that you have metal grates on all the windows so that nothing can smash through and take you by surprise. It's also a good idea to do what Neville does and set a second alarm so that you can begin locking down as soon as the sun starts to set.
No. Eat your vegetables. Don't just push them around. Eat them. I'm not playing.
If you have a dog like Sam around, make sure that they know not to bark or howl in the night. Keep them quiet and have treats on hand in case they start getting rowdy. It can't be stressed how careful you need to be at night, so please soundproof whenever possible. The Darkseekers have heightened senses, so if they hear you, it won't be long before they find you. Make sure that your shelter is in a safe area. Neville sticks it out near Manhattan, specifically because it's a viral hotspot, theorizing that his best chance of finding a cure would be at ground zero. But if you aren't a virologist working on a cure and there's a pandemic sweeping through your city, get out of there as soon as possible. Sure, most people around you are still probably going to either die or get turned into a Darkseeker, but at least if you're in a less densely populated area, you'll have a better chance of fending them off. With Manhattan now swarming with infected, you need to head out into sparsely populated areas like national parks, hills, remote coastlines, or a small suburb with plenty of resources nearby. The Darkseekers aren't the only thing you need to be worried about in this desolate environment though. You need to make sure that you stay sane. Chances are, you won't meet another human for a few years, so you need to have a few companions. Neville opts to chat up mannequins to fill the void of human interaction. Please don't do that. It's depressing for one, but also you don't want to become emotionally attached to them. That could lead to trouble, like when Neville is tricked by his mannequin pal Fred and caught in a snare trap set by the Darkseekers as revenge for Neville trapping their kind.
Keep your eye on this one for me. I'm getting good.
Neville's best companion is his dog Sam, a German Shepherd who sticks by his side to the end. Sam is the key to keeping Neville together mentally and emotionally, and if it weren't for the support she gave him, it's likely that he would have given up before finding a cure. Clearly, having man's best friend by his side is better than befriending mannequins, so make sure that you have a puppy. In fact, why not adopt multiple dogs right as the news start reporting the outbreak? Not that your new friends are expendable or anything, but this way, if one happens to get infected by a Darkseeker, at least you'll still have a few friends left. And this leads us on to the next point. Going out and trying to seek revenge on the Darkseekers for killing your dog is a bad idea. Granted, Neville's desire to avenge Sam did lead him to finding Anna, but it was reckless. Now, having other dogs won't lessen the pain of your loss, but it will motivate you to put their safety above your need for revenge, and will stop you from doing stupid things like this. Finally, there's that small issue of saving the entire world. Hopefully you're a virologist and can either do your own research or help someone like Neville out, but if you're not a science big shot, well, it's still probably a good idea to hook up with some real people and work towards that noble goal. The only way for a semblance of normality to return is for a cure to be created. After all, the millions of Darkseekers are still humans that have been infected, and they might be able to revert back to who they used to be, so put out messages on the radio waves looking for survivors, and scan for signals constantly. That way, if you or a body finds a cure, the process of manufacturing and distributing the cure can be coordinated. Plus, finding other humans via radio and having them come to you is going to be a much safer method than meeting them during a rage-filled revenge attack. But yeah, if a cure is synthesized, please take your time before going onto human trials for obvious reasons. And if those reasons aren't obvious to you, then you probably won't make it this far anyway.
GA series results appear typical. Compound 6 appears to be showing decreased aggression response. Next candidate for human trials. Hang in there, number 6.
Now, Neville's plan to catch a Darkseeker and experiment on them to find a cure was pretty solid. He managed to trap one and bring it back to his lab and eventually synthesized a cure, but his actions after Sam passed winded up leading a ton of Darkseekers to his home. In the theatrical version, the Darkseekers follow the gang and trap them in Neville's lab, forcing him to sacrifice himself to save Anna, Ethan, and the cure. But if you followed my tips from earlier, the Darkseekers wouldn't have tracked you in the first place. In the extended cut, Neville realizes that the alpha male Darkseeker was merely attempting to recover his partner, the female Darkseeker that Neville had been experimenting on. He apologizes to the alpha and recognizes that these Darkseekers, while dangerous, still had human emotions deep within them, and that to them, he was the monster. Thanks to his empathy, the alpha decides to spare Neville and leaves him be. The moral of the story here is, a little kindness goes a long way. Either way, if you follow my plan, you'll get to learn more about the Darkseekers. You can track down or create a colony of survivors, and play a legendary role in bringing humanity back into the light.